Prego Nick Griffin, deputato del BNP.
Our Europe is at a time of great danger. We face a demographic winter where a combination of low birth rates and abortion means that our people are literally disappearing. And into the gap that is left pour millions and millions and millions of coloured immigrants from all over the rest of the world. Our economies are being destroyed by systematic deindustrialisation. What they call globalisation is actually the destruction of our economic base. And parallel to the economic destruction of our nations, there is a systematic and deliberate destruction of our traditions, of our society and of our identity. Our children, especially our young men, are left with no pride, no hope, nothing but drugs, unless there's another Zionist war, in which case they want their blood. It would be easy to say that our Europe, our nations of Europe, are dying. Easy, but not true. Because they're not dying, they're being murdered. Because the attack on the existence of our nations and our peoples is cold-blooded, calculated and deliberate by the Zionists, the neocons and the capitalists. So, faced with all those problems, it might be that it might seem that we should be downhearted, that we should be scared, that we should feel there is no hope. Because you have to ask yourself, how has it been possible for our enemies to do this to our people without an effective resistance? What is it that has put our people to sleep? And is that thing which has put our people to sleep now coming to an end? You can answer the question of how has it been possible, really, with two words: consumer prosperity. The peoples of Europe for the last 30 to 50 years have collectively lived a higher standard of living than any one of the great European kings and queens of all our past history. The system has not been good, but it has delivered the material goods, and that is how they have left our people asleep, accepting what's being done to us. The thing to understand is it's over. It's finished. The capitalist media like to talk, particularly in Britain, and they say, oh, the financial crisis is over. Things are going to get better. I'm sure the capitalist media in Italy tell you the same lie. We're nearly through it. It's going to get better. No, it is not. The financial crisis has only just begun, and that is why we are going to save our Europe. So the first phase of this crisis was the subprime housing crisis in the United States, which started in 2007 to 2008. And the total debt catastrophe of that part of the crisis was $8 trillion. The second phase of the great financial crisis of our time was the European Monetary Union debt crisis. That debt crisis crucified Greece. It's crucified Italy, but the amount of money involved was a total of about €1 trillion. But the third leg of this financial catastrophe, which is only just about to begin, is far, far bigger. It's all about emerging markets. Countries like Brazil, countries like Turkey, countries like India. And there you're looking at money that's flooded into those countries and is going to be destroyed in their debt crisis, of 8 trillion euros. And the biggest... So remember that first subprime disaster was $8 trillion, and then understand that the biggest emerging market disaster of all, China, has a credit bubble about to burst of $24 trillion, 3 times the subprime disaster. So that's enough boring economics. Let's look at what it really means. Because it means a Europe-wide catastrophe as our peoples are bled to death by the vampire capitalist banking system. It's only one choice. Do we break the banks, or do we break the people? And the nationalist choice is very clear. We break the banks, we save our nations, and we save our people. Easily done. It's easily done. All that has to be done is for nationalist parties to have the power to take the power from the banks and give it to the peoples through their elected governments. It's as simple as that. The cure is so simple: to repudiate all the fraudulent banking debts and to put the power to create our credit into the hands of our governments. And then those governments should spend, not lend, the money into circulation, spending it on capital projects such as railways, power stations, things that our countries need and things that create real jobs and real wealth for our people. But as I'm sure everybody here understands, there is no possibility of that simple solution being put into practice by any of the existing political elites in any of our countries, because they're not politicians, they're banksters' puppets. And they have a different solution when a vampire bank, through its own incompetence and greed, is bleeding itself to death. Their solution when the banks are bleeding is simply to bleed the people even harder and give even more blood to the vampire banks. And believe me, they've already had their test run. Their test run in Cyprus, where they dealt with the problems created by a corrupt banking system by confiscating the savings of the people. Let me read you a very short quote from an article published by the press agency Reuters on the 12th of last month. The savings of the European Union's 50 million citizens could be used to fund long-term investments to boost the economy and help plug the gap left by the banks since the financial crisis. Let me translate that. They are going to confiscate the savings of every ordinary person in Europe in order to prop up their rotten, stinking, corrupt banking system. Or at least they're going to try. So the prosperity and the comfort and the ease which our peoples have had for decades is coming to a very abrupt, a very ugly and very painful end. But that will also end the ability of the ruling elites who've been destroying our countries to do so without anybody resisting, because they are about to spark a whirlwind of European resistance against their evil. Today you can see the early stages of this in Greece, and you can see how the old elite react with terror to the rise of Golden Dawn, with a crude repression which, because our comrades in Golden Dawn are nationalists, they will shrug off. It will make them stronger, it will make them stand out as the real resistance, it will make them the victors. You can feel it here too. The forest fire of nationalist resistance from Greece is spreading throughout Europe, it's spreading to Italy, it will spread to France, it will spread to Germany, it will spread to Britain, it will spread over all our continents. We will rise up and we will be free. Because the economic pain and the sense of betrayal and the hatred against the old corrupt elite are going to be so strong, they will take our people from being asleep to being fighting mad, and about time too. So, all we have to do is to show our people, convince our people that we can make a better future and organise them to fight for it. And this is why, despite all the problems that we face, the nations of Europe can live. The nations of Europe will live. There is only one real problem. It's a matter of demographics. It's a matter of numbers. It's a matter of who has the most young men. And this is the last generation in which, in Europe, the peoples of Europe are potentially the demographic masters when we have enough young men. One more generation and it will be too late. And so it's this generation, it's our generation, which has this great duty, which is here at this great moment in history, and which has this great opportunity to save Europe and the peoples of Europe. So the question is very simple. The fatal crisis of the old system is inevitable. The only question is, will we be organised enough, will we be ready to take advantage of it and lead our people to salvation? The crisis is inevitable. The answer lies in your hands, but I believe that our time will come.
La crisi è inevitabile, la risposta è nelle vostre mani, ma io credo che quel tempo arriverà.